Micah, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Man, thank you so much, man. So blessed to be here, brother.
Dude, I'm looking forward to this. And shout out to our mutual friend, Randy, for making the connection. For people that don't know you and your story, give us the spark notes. You know, who you are, where you coming from, what are you doing now?
Yeah, so I grew up kind of a skinny, insecure kid. Didn't have a whole lot of money, one of those type of stories. Went through quite a bit the first half of my life, just me and my mom, and we moved quite often, whatnot. And I just honestly wanted more in life than I had experienced and had seen. And so I had gone to college and got into fitness. I really loved fitness and I really loved marketing. And so I ended up getting a marketing degree, a bachelor's degree in marketing. But I always tell people I got a PhD in like bodybuilding and transformation because I was absolutely like engulfed in it. I loved being able to make a decision each day with going and working out and seeing a result from that. Not only that, just the workout high that was happening. Keep in mind, I was just like, I was not in a phenomenal headspace at that point. So really that lifestyle ended up getting me to a really happy, positive, healthy, fit place. From there, I went and did the whole 9 to 5 type of job. I hated it. So I quit 9 months in after college. And I was like, I'm going to go be a personal trainer. And my family is like, dude, you just spent all that money on college and you're going to go do something you could have done without going to college. Yeah, but I needed to have that, period of time in college to figure out what it is I wanted to do and my passion. And so I started personal training for little to nothing, but I absolutely loved waking up and helping people transform their lives, just like I had transformed my own. Fast forward to 2006, I was on this network for your older folks that are in your 40s or late 30s, a platform called MySpace. And MySpace was the bomb. Because the algorithms on MySpace were set up where you literally could bombard and spam whatever message you want on a consistent basis. And that's what I did. And that's how I started this whole transformation training and model that I had come up with. 2006, I have a girl reach out from Canada that's like, man, I love what you're doing with all your clients locally. I would love to work with you, but we're online. And I said, well, why not? And so that's where online personal training came together for me. At that point, I had not seen anybody doing online personal training at all. So I was one of the very, very first to do online personal training. Fast forward to 2009. I had met my wife and we started a business called Hitch Fit. So we're celebrating 14 years. Since that point, we've helped clients in 81 countries lose over 600,000 pounds. We have 2 brick and mortar gyms here in Kansas City, and we also started a fitness and wellness retreat business as well. And we're hosting our first conference in January. So everything surrounded around helping people transform their lives. I'm obsessed with seeing people get better, especially people that are in leadership roles, entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs, whatnot, where like there is a crazy level of stress and responsibility that these men and women have to deal with every single day. I know firsthand what health and fitness and eating right does, not only to the physical self and what we look like, but even more importantly, the mental self and really balancing out that stress.
Yeah, dude, first of all, I got to acknowledge these statistics that you just shared, and then we'll dive into the plethora of that journey. 14 years in business, which is incredible. Over 81 countries. I think we're only at like 3 with ours, which I'm really proud of. But like 81 is crazy. We got 78 to go. We're going to chase you.
You're going to get me, man.
600,000 pounds lost. That is bonkers and an absolute testament to the work that you guys are doing. So I had to underline that.
Thank you, man.
100%. There's so many cool things I want to dive into. You mentioned the mental health and the nutrition and how those things play. That's something I've been fascinated about over the last 2 years or so, is that like people were calling it the gut brain connection and how your gut is like your second brain and all those things. Like that part's really cool to me. I want to go all the way back. So let's start at that transition. 9 months in the gig, that you spent all this money to go get this degree, this expensive piece of paper to go and do. And then you're like, you know what? I can't do it anymore.
You
You have all this pushback, I'd imagine. How did you handle that adversity of navigating that decision? Because I know what it felt like when I walked away from my career, and I did it 5 years in, and I had been planting seeds for about all 5 years of that, right? And it was still tough. So I'm curious what that looked like for you.
Well, it was the first time that I was making actually real money, and real money for that period of time in my life. And I'll tell you what, there was pushback, but I think what set me up to deal with the pushback was, and really what my whole speech was with it was like, I knew what I experienced as a kid. I experienced a lot of instability. I experienced a lot of seeing, a mother, really do jobs she didn't like to do, that she wasn't passionate about, sometimes bringing unhappiness to the home. And so for me, I really foundationally believed that if I did something that I loved, even if I wasn't making a lot of money with it to begin with, eventually I could figure out, if I got good enough with it, became a master at what it was I was doing, that I could eventually make money out of it and ultimately wake up and do what I love doing. And so even to this day, we work crazy hours sometimes, me and my wife, and it still doesn't feel like work, because every day I get to meet someone new and I get the opportunity to help them in a way. And so, when that pushback came, I pretty much set my family down and some friends, and I was just like, hey, I got to wake up and I got to do what I love, because my happiness and my joy outweighs the money. It just does. Eventually, I will make money. And I believe that this line of work, eventually, if I can open up my own place and whatnot, I didn't know about online personal training at that point, but I thought if I open up a brick and mortar, I could make some decent money and whatnot. And ultimately, it was way bigger than that.
Yeah, dude, that's so cool. I love that you found the alignment so early because one thing I found myself talking with clients about a lot lately is the resistance when you're out of alignment. And what I mean by that is, if we rely purely on discipline and work ethic, for people that are really dialed, you can get away with it for a long time. Even though you're experiencing the resistance, even though you feel like you're squaring or jamming a square peg into a round hole, you can get away with it. But until you hit that alignment, that's like when you grease the wheel, where it doesn't feel like work, where you're working 16 hours and you forget to get up and eat, right?
Yeah.
Which has literally never been my life ever, because I love food, right? But
Yeah.
when you hit that moment, you start to realize what that actually feels like. And that's where it's round peg in a round hole. That's where we're no longer just relying on discipline and discipline and work ethic and willpower. Those are just the superchargers now, right? And it's so cool that you found it so early. How long in that career did it take before you actually started making some money?
Oh man, let's see. I didn't start making some money, so that I started in 2001 at a YMCA. I think it was about $15 an hour, and then I moved over to another local gym, probably making about $20 an hour. And I started seeing this common thread with the corporate gyms that I was just like not okay with, and that was, the focus was never on the client or the person. The focus was, how many sales have you done?
Sessions, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so we would never go into a meeting and go, hey, I'd love to hear about your clients. How well are they doing? How much weight have they lost? Give me some info on that. It was Micah or whoever it was, how many sessions have you sold? How many more do you plan on selling to this person? Here's what we need to do. And it almost like zaps the passion out of you. So I knew I needed to get away from corporate world. So after about 2.5 years of corporate world, I ended up moving and doing kind of independent training. And I was going home to home, which was cool, but I knew long term that was going to be too exhausting as well to when the only time I'm really making financial income is when, I'm in person and with these people, and then gas money and time. And so that was hard to balance out. And then I worked at this really small gym kind of as an independent contractor. And then fast forward to 2009. So it was about 8 years. Something else to touch base on. I was actually doing something else at the same time too. So in 2001, I started and I got into the fitness industry doing fitness modeling. And so personal training was there, but I was also building my personal side of things, which was trying to get on covers of magazines and getting on TV and competitions in that entire world, because I thought the bigger that my clout can get personal, the bigger that business can be eventually when I grew it. And it was the smartest decision that I ever made. I ended up landing on a whole bunch of covers, won a world championship. I got in probably over 100 fitness magazines and TV reality and all of that. So when we started the business, it exploded from day one.
Yeah. Dude, you were ahead of your time. Like, I think everyone's realizing that now, that like personal brand is going to be one of the new currencies. And ultimately it's just garnering attention. It's an interesting world now though, where it's, some people look at it as like purely ego driven and like not actually bringing any value. Other people just chase vanity metrics and there's nothing to back it up. Which is why you see all these people like broke influencers making $0. And I look forward to the time when people fully reshift how they think about those things. Like, people think followers equal dollars, and that's not true. The number of people that I know that have less than like 2,000 followers and make a couple $100,000 a month is just a mind-boggling number. Multi 7-figure companies. And we would look at that and think, oh, they got 20 likes on that post. It's like, cool. Well, all 20 of them just paid them $50,000 contracts. So like, they're exactly good. But to think about that and like have that foresight back then is really, really impressive. And also just casually sprinkling in there like world championship. Talk to me about what that looked like. What was the world championship? What did it look like to accomplish it?
So I came up in the fitness modeling game, and so to kind of explain the difference, there was a circle of us guys at that particular point from the early 2000s into about 2010 that were doing a lot of work, for the Muscle and Fitness and all the big magazines at that particular point. And so I had met my wife in 2008 at an expo called the Mr. Olympia in Vegas. Huge fitness expo. If you love protein and a lot of muscles, it's a great place to go. And so ultimately, she was really hardcore into competitions at that time. She had won 2 world championships. And so when we ended up falling in love and whatnot, she moved to Kansas City. She's like convincing me, oh, you got to get on stage. And I'm like, I don't want to get on stage. Like, I like doing this side. And she's like, you got to get on stage. And much like you had talked about yourself earlier, it was like the competition side of it, I was like, okay, like I can do this, whatnot. And so 2009, I ended up placing 9th in the world that year, and then I ended up getting 5th in the world, and then 2011 ended up winning the world championship. And then that night, I retired from the sport. And I was like, man, this is how I want to go out. It was never something I was extremely passionate about. What I was passionate about was how many people's lives were inspired by the journey leading up. It was unbelievable, with just how many people we were able to touch and impact, regardless if you step on stage or you're just starting your fitness journey, just having that ability to use your platform for something good.
Yeah. That's the cool thing about fitness to me, is all the parallels that it has, and not just life, but in business as well. We talk about this a lot on the show, actually, and I've had some great conversations, with people like Wes Watson. One of my early interviews with Colin Wayne back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Like the incremental growth, the seemingly so insignificant, like in the fitness world, we work so hard for a minuscule improvement.
Yeah.
Right. Whether that's 5 pounds on a PR, which may sound like a decent amount until you compare that it's like going from 500 to 505. Yes. Small percentage. What's that one? Yeah, literally 1%.
Yep.
Work a year for that. Right. Or like a half a percentage of body fat or whatever it is. Like, it's so interesting how it plays out. And I'm curious from your perspective, what are some of your favorite parallels between your journey as a fitness professional, like on the actual health and nutrition and fitness side of it as an athlete? What are some of your favorite parallels between that world and then like what we would call life or business?
Oh man. I mean, I think they're so equally parallel with one another once you're I think kind of on the same page with how you run life. And I'll explain this. So I always talk about, I do believe that bodybuilding in general saved my life in a way. And the reason so is because of the schedule and the discipline behind it.
Yeah.
And so people that understand fitness, especially if you're trying to get to a high level, whether that be running marathons, Ironmans, bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatever it may be, you understand the day-to-day grind of not only, hey, I got to go work out, but you're getting into the science of it, of going, okay, I got to pyramid this, I got to do this, I got to train like this, I got to eat like this, I got to drink water at this point, I got to go to bed at this time, I got to go. And some people think that's very vigorous. They think, oh my gosh, you're losing out on life. There's other people like myself, maybe you too. I very much strive and do really well and thrive off of discipline and being in a very structured schedule. And so when it comes to my body getting to it at an elite level, I understand everything that I have to do. I have it detailed for years of almost every decision I make, for every prep I do. And then when I carry that over into business, a lot of the same exact principles I use in wellness and feeling my best carry over to my business. And really not only like the decisions we make within the business, but how I lead and my mentoring within the business, how we give back. Like everything has purpose and reason and intention, but also has a certain specific level of discipline as well. And then understanding that it can't just be work all the time, that work-life balance of also having fun. We don't prep 365. When you're in bodybuilding world, we have time off. We call it off season or whatnot. We're still working out where we may have another goal, but it may not be as vigorous as maybe before. We go through that same exact process with business. So what I do is we have periods of time where we're like, okay, we're really going to grind. We have 2 books we want to get out in a conference. We're going to get this done in this amount of time. So that those disciplines run so parallel. And when you can get this side, when it comes to your mind, your physical self, your fitness, your health, all that on point, all of this, all that business that you're wanting to take to the next level, everything gets better. Yeah. Because you realize that now I'm able to operate at that top speed that I've never been at before. Like I'm always in 3rd gear on the highway, wanting it to get up to 5th or 6th gear, and it just won't get there because I'm cloudy, I'm tired, I'm lazy, and you're just feel like you're being suffocated. Whereas, you bring in that fitness, that nutrition, it really helps balance out the stress. It helps really just, you're taking it out on dumbbells instead of drinking a whole bunch of alcohol.
Yeah, dude, I love that. I love that. And it reminds me of a conversation I was literally having earlier, maybe this week, no, end of last week, with a good buddy of mine. His name is Chris Vasquez. Shout out to Chris, very successful entrepreneur. He's in Colombia right now. And we were talking about that exact thing. Like we're in one of those growth seasons in business right now where it's like just grinding, right? I would call it a grind season, not necessarily a growth season. There's some transition happening, all good things, but like it's going to be a grind for a little bit. And it had me question, like, do I need to do anything differently? Like, well, no, I haven't forgotten how to close deals. I haven't forgotten how to close or enroll clients. I haven't forgotten how to generate transformation. So what if, and this is what I was kind of thinking out loud to Chris, I'm like, what if I did nothing but do everything in my power to take everything from a personal perspective to the next level, become that much more impeccable with my word, not miss anything, not show up late to my meetings with myself, hit all of my workouts, not miss any reps, not skip abs because I didn't do it in the middle of the day. Like, become absolutely impeccable. What might happen? And the consensus of our conversation was everything would be better. Business would go through the roof, even if I did nothing else. Operated the same in business. And what's the worst? Even if it didn't, what's the worst case scenario? I get even more jacked. I feel a little bit better. Like, boo-hoo, you know?
Yeah.
And I think we underestimate this because everyone's like, dude, no way. Like, there's no way that that can be that powerful. But it is. And I think for me, and I'd love your thoughts on this too, Micah, but like for me, it's not even about the fitness. For me, it's about the mental gains. It's like, if I trust everything that I say to myself, if I trust every commitment I make will get completed, if I am that incredibly impeccable with my word, I'm fucking unstoppable.
Yeah.
Like, there is nothing getting in my way. And then the trailing benefits are great health, great physique, fantastic business. But like,
Yeah.
that's the order, in my opinion. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would put aesthetic really far down, but what I'll tell you is, when I started my journey, it was definitely to get my body to look a specific way. And
same.
what I'll tell you about a majority, probably 95% of our clients and them coming to us want to look a specific way. And a majority of our initial marketing has to do with the before and after and seeing that. But what's deeper rooted in it, because we know like aesthetic comes and goes. I mean, to stay that disciplined that long, that can be very difficult for people. And sometimes life happens and uncontrollables happen and whatnot.
Yeah.
But you are spot on. Everything that you just said about the mental state, it is the game changer. It changes everything. That level of energy that you have every day, that level of clarity, that focus that you have, your leadership skills, going into a room and having that shine on you. I can't explain that until you meet one of those people and you're like, dude, what are you doing? Well, everything you just mentioned. I'm on point with all of these things, and that's why all these new doors are opening for me.
100%. I think I keep using this phrase, but I do think people undervalue this, right? It's like, we always hear people do business with people that like, and trust. Like, if you're a sales leader, because I could think the exact same thing about our business. Everyone comes to us because they want to make more money, and that's fine. And we do that. And we have guarantees in place to make sure that that happens as long as people put in the work. That's not the hard part. But I tell them on sales calls, on enrollment conversations, this won't change your world. An extra zero in the bank account, it's like you're going to be able to breathe a little bit easier. The weight might be lifted, but that's not the true breakthrough transformation.
Yep.
The breakthrough transformation is going to be in the life stuff, whatever that means. It's going to be because date night with your spouse became non-negotiable. It's going to be because you don't miss workouts anymore, right? And your weight's coming down the way that you finally wanted it to. It's going to be because you finally took time away from your computer, away from your cell phone to pour into your cup. Finally, it's going to be because you prioritize calling your parents once a week and you've been neglecting it. Whatever those things are, that's what's going to change their world. It's always the lagging indicators, but our marketing is obviously around increasing sales too, because that's what people want, I want to talk about your business before we run out of too much time, because I want to make sure to highlight this stuff. Number one, these metrics are incredible, and I want to underline them again. But number two, you've also made an interesting comment that I want to give you a platform to dive into, which is you talk about how you guys like to give back into your business. And I know that if Randy is the one who connected us, I know that this is a focal point, and you guys clearly had a great conversation about it. So we're definitely aligned there. But tell me more about what you guys are doing with Hitch Fit and what that looks like for you and your business and how you guys are giving back.
Yeah, so a little over a decade ago, my wife went to Haiti for the first time on a missions trip, and she came back. At that point, communication was kind of rough, like talking to her on the phone while she's in Haiti, like it just was non-existent. The infrastructure there, it's still absolutely horrific. But anyway, so she comes back and she's in the car. We're in the airport, coming from the airport, and she just goes, Mike, I just want you to know I was feeling was feeling called to, we don't have children of our own. And she said, I want to let you know, we have 10 children now that we're going to sponsor and whatnot. And I'm like, I'm a husband going, okay, but this is early in our business too. You got to keep in mind that like this at that point was a financial commitment, and I'm still trying to be disciplined financially and grow the business and get to where it needs to be and whatnot. And so you're looking at every dollar in and dollar out. And then the next year comes. And she comes back, and I had a feeling that she was going to probably get some more kids. And she ended up saying that we now had 25 children. And then third year, she came back and she said, Micah, I was just feeling called from the Lord that school is ours. And so since that point, we've sponsored over 80 children per month through the thick and thin. And I want to let people know what that is in that particular business is at least 10% of every dollar that is made out of our gyms before we pay bills, anything goes to Haiti first. And so, I had the opportunity a few years back, I think it was 17 or 18, to go and meet the children in person, to see the school, the infrastructure. It was one of the most life-changing and just joyful gaining type of situations I ever had. The children were absolutely beautiful. Got to see how everything flowed, where our money was going. And then ultimately, one of the security guys that was with us the whole time, he said, it's unsafe in Haiti. It's just unsafe. And so you have to have security everywhere. And he said, I want you to come to my gym. And I'm like, what, dude? And we were like the first white people ever to come to, Port-au-Prince gym, and it's like downtown Port-au-Prince, no ceilings, and going in there, Haitian hip hop going on. They couldn't speak English, but we had this common language called fitness. And they had axles and concrete blocks of stuff you see on Instagram and YouTubes and stuff like, and we went and just put it down that day, man. And I thought to myself, I was like, these people have nothing. Like they have nothing. And when I mean nothing, like, dude, they're trying to figure out how to get a meal that day or the next day to try to feed their family. And you have homeless people on the side of the road. Well, most everybody is homeless. So many people just without anything. And it got me back home. And I thought, man, we just have to give. We have to give because this is where it's at. This is how foundationally you gain more joy. I love waking up and helping people the way that I do. I'm getting compensated for that. But to give back to somebody that is truly in need, like it's one of the best gifts that you can give yourself too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's so awesome. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, the parallels. Like as you're saying your story, I'm like playing mine in my head of like very similar situations with organizations we support. One of them, I think Randy was actually with me down in Tijuana at the orphanage, just soccer with the kids on this like cement like field, so to speak. And no, like my Spanish, I hadn't spoken Spanish in quite a while, so it was rusty, very little communication, and just playing sport, it's so freaking cool. What is and by the way, for people that are listening, if you haven't heard me talk about the term for purpose, I want you to go and look it up because I believe this is how business should be done. It is what Mike is doing. It's what we do. It's what my buddy Randy does. It's this concept of people think nonprofit or for-profit, and for-purpose is right down the middle, where it's a for-profit company, but there's philanthropy baked into the business model. So as you invest to work with the company, you're not just lining the pockets of a CEO, right? You're also supporting some initiative that is in alignment with that organization. So Micah, thank you for being part of that mission with all of us. What's the goal for you with Hitch Fit now? Like, do you have a giving goal? Do you have like a next target that you're trying to hit? What does it look like for you guys?
Yeah. So Hitch Fit has been really kind of, really stable and it's sustained for quite a while. So the brick and mortars, we're not really interested in growing more gyms. We're not interested in franchising. We looked into that, but we would have to change our model so much that it was not something that I was interested in doing. I knew that it would also take a lot of time away from the things that really mattered. I love to go travel. I love being able to spend a lot of time with my wife and giving back the way that I needed to. I didn't want to be so engulfed in work that I couldn't do that sort of stuff. The online side, we're always trying to grow. The new business that we started a year ago called Rockbody Retreats is kind of our new thing that we're really pushing. And it's very similar to Hitch Fit in a sense that we're really working on kind of the four pillars where it's finances, faith, and family, and fitness. And really, the people that are coming to these retreats, we're going into their lives and helping them level up. And so our last one was in Mexico just a couple months ago, and we had 90 people from all over come to that one. It was phenomenal. We have another one in Asheville in September that's going to be an adventure retreat with like zip lining, whitewater rafting, but really going into these people's lives and increasing them. From top CEOs to, stay-at-home moms that, don't get a whole lot of time away. And so it's kind of all walks of life. And then we're both working on our own books right now that we plan on launching before January. And then we're hosting our own conference in January in Tampa, Florida. So called Lean In, Level Up. And so, yeah, it's that's what we got cooking right now. Like I said, we always kind of have multiple things kind of on the burners. We love staying busy, but it's all kind of in the same wheelhouse, which is, can it impact somebody? Is it our purpose or the Lord's purpose for us? And can we give back through it? And so even with the retreats, we ended up giving a percentage of the money made from the retreats to two different charities that were connected within Rockbody. So we're gonna, it's just amazing, man. I mean, to just be able to wake up and do what you love. And I know people want to make more money, but man, I just encourage you guys just to like find something that you really enjoy doing and give back as much as you can, because you'll find a lot of joy and happiness in that.
Dude, I love that. And that's so cool. Talk about a couple irons on the fire, but I look forward to seeing all of them come to fruition. As you were talking, I remembered of a question I wanted to ask. So I'm going to hopscotch back a couple topics, and then we'll ask you some of the final questions and wrap up. I want to be respectful of your time here. But when we were talking about the structure, right, we were talking about the fitness and the business parallels, and you were talking about how regimented you are in your prep, whether it's like, I'm going to eat this, then I'm going to drink this water here. This is what my training is going to be. This is the volume. This is the reps. And you talked about pivoting that over to the business. I'm always fascinated with how skill sets transition into different areas of our lives. Because I believe that people bucket their skill sets and it doesn't, they just think it only applies to fitness until someone like you is like, no, actually just apply the same thing over here. Right. And I'm always fascinated what that transition looks like. So my question to you, Micah, is, number one, did you always know that it could apply to other areas and it's specifically into the business? And number two, if not, what did that transition look like as you embraced it and applied it to the business world as well?
Yeah. So I didn't have the studies behind it to prove it, but I did know that when I felt better, I was more productive. When I was healthier, I was more productive. When my stress levels were lower, I was more productive and more creative. And so I got really deep into this, trying to figure out when during the day was I actually most effective. I needed to go deep inside of myself to figure that out too. I ended up figuring out I was a super early morning creative person. And the reason that this was happening is because in bodybuilding world, you end up doing what we call fasted cardio. I'm a fasted cardio guy when I go into cuts and whatnot, but I still do it even in a bulk just to keep my heart strong and whatnot. So I figured out the parallels between doing cardio, something like a Peloton bike or a bike or something that I could also work at the same time doing. So if I was doing Peloton for an hour, what was happening is my brain function and creativity was increasing while I'm doing cardio. And so a lot of people who follow me know this, but I run and manage 17 social media pages daily with unique content. And I do it all while I ride on a bike in cardio, usually during the morning. And I literally am like a machine. So you got to remember, I came from a marketing background that loved fitness. And
Yeah.
so when I'm doing cardio is when I do a majority of my social media. So yes, when it carried over, I was like, oh my gosh, like I have something here. I literally just wrote a post about it yesterday because I hit my 1,000th ride on Peloton. And like, I'm just explaining to people, regardless if you're a CEO or an entrepreneur or whatnot, like you got to figure out where that window is for you that you are most creative. But I'm telling you, if weight training is a little bit different because you got to get into it and you got to really focus on what you're doing and squeezing the muscle, mind muscle connection, all of that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, and it's not cool to just be on your phone while people are working out either, like train hard and put your phone down for a minute. But when it comes to cardio and you're in more of if you're not running outside or something like that, but even if you run outside, have a voice recorder, and talk while you're doing it. I mean, it's connected to having greater language, greater creativity. And so, man, the parallels just run so deep in every way. It's why I'm like, I work as much as I do in just trying to like force feed this into people. I'm like, you got to believe me, just believe me. Like, just do it, because it will change your life. I don't care how successful you are. People who are ultra, making 9 figures, yearly and balling out of control. The ones that are doing fitness will go and do. That's the number one thing on my list. I got to do that. That has to be number one. You look at Mark Wahlberg, The Rock, all these guys do these early morning regimens because they know that is how they want to start their day every single day. And so when I see these CEOs that aren't applying health and fitness, I'm going, dude, you are losing 20% because you're not making an hour for yourself a day.
Yep. Yeah, dude, I was just looking at some of the pages. It's pretty cool content too. So I encourage everybody to check it out. On that note, Micah, where can people follow you, find you most? Like, what are the primary pages you hang out the most on? Obviously, there's 17 of them, but like, we'll try and link a bunch of them. Plug away, my friend. Website.
I'm on LinkedIn. You can look under the business on that. That's going to be more professional entrepreneur CEO based. So every platform is also different type of content. Facebook page for Micah LaCerte, that's very personal. That's what's going on in our lives, mixed with a little bit of positivity and whatnot. Instagram runs with pictures and videos and reels. So those are a lot of shorts and whatnot, but it's a good way to also, I think, educate a population. They see a video and like, oh man, I want to get bigger muscles, or I want to be more successful. And so, they take the time to read that or listen to those videos. And then hitchfit.com is our business with the online side. And then rockbodyretreat.com is the retreat business.
Perfect. So guys, we'll link all that up, get connected, show some love, all that stuff. Micah, the last question I have for you, going all the way back.
Okay.
Degree in marketing, going into, the quote unquote real job, lasting a whole 9 months, and then being like, you know what, I'm out. I gotta pursue a passion and moving into the body or into the personal training space. Right. And then going through that 8-year window of going from gym to gym and then going out on your own and all these different pivots until you hit the point where you finally were making money. Right. Meeting your wife, getting married, starting your business 14 years ago, now hitting a point where you're 81 countries you've helped people in, 600K pounds lost. I can't wrap my head around that. That's so crazy. All the way to where you're at right now, right? Funding an entire school, helping all these kids. So cool. This entire window. What's been the biggest lesson that you've learned that has yielded the most results and had the biggest impact on your life and in your business?
The reason that I wasn't succeeding is because, number one, I was worried about the judgment of others and trying to almost follow what they felt was the right thing for me. And number two, and the biggest thing, was understanding that my choices would impact my future. And that meant every little choice that I made. I was going to make mistakes, but don't make gigantic mistakes. I was going to, make some positives, and you understand how to implement that back into your life. I am a huge, huge pusher of like the decisions that we made, the circles that we surround ourselves in, the places that we go, the things that we do, the things we fill our heads with. Like all of that matters if you have this massive goal of being your best version of whatever that may be, for you. And lastly, like this one's going to be a hard pill to swallow for some entrepreneurs. Don't put money first. Don't put it first. Put your happiness, joy, waking up, doing what you love. If you're married, taking that time with your wife, spending those precious moments together with your children, traveling the world and seeing what it's all about. And trying to balance that out with having a successful business. It's challenging, but it is 100% worth it. I can't imagine being at the end of my life and going, man, I didn't do anything. I made $400 million, but I didn't live fully. I'd rather make 100 million and live super full.
Let's go. Micah, thanks for joining me, brother. I really enjoyed this.
I appreciate it, brother.
100%.